Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Larry Wall.
Microphone check? Okay.
Check. Check.
Well, welcome to the Alps of Europe. Our theme this time is Renaissance Pearl. In the Renaissance, people started talking about a lot of things. This was, I think, by and large, a good thing. In my talks, I also talk about a lot of things. Sometimes I even talk about the pearl onion. In very rare cases, I even talk about pearl. In fact, so rarely do I actually talk about pearl that my conscience has been bothering me a bit. That I don't talk about it pearl enough in these talks. So since I've been feeling a bit guilty, I've invited a couple of representatives today of my conscience to make their cases here today. A couple of weeks ago, I gave the State of the Onion talk at OSCON. You know, these days, the state of the pearl onion is getting kind of complicated. Here's an onion if you cut it across the middle. I'm sure you've seen those onions that have one outside but two centers in the middle, like this. But that's not quite right for a metaphor for our community right now. The state of the pearl onion today is kind of like that, only inside out. Pearl really has one heart but two outer skins currently, so it looks more like this. We might arbitrarily label these two sides of this onion as 5 and 6. But it's completely arbitrary. We can use other labels. I know that you know, this is not really a picture of an onion. I'm just using it as a picture of an onion. It's really a picture of my brain that they took last time I was in the hospital to see the two hemispheres. It also have a very large brain stem. Most of my thinking goes on subconsciously, I guess. So really, it's the L and R for my left and right brains. You can see that my right brain there is a little bit screwed up. Anyway, let's for now let's label our onion with 0 and 1, or good old booleans. Before we start talking with you in a gallery here, I'd like to take a straw poll. I'll ask you some questions. If you agree, hold up your right hand and make a 1 with your index finger. If you disagree, hold up your left hand and make a 0 with your thumb and finger. Unless, of course, that's an obscene gesture in your native language, then just make a 1 with your middle finger. Sorry.
No, you're not.
Sorry. Anyway, if you agree, 1 on the dexterous hand, disagree, 0 on the sinister hand. Ready? First question. Do you think Pearl 5 and Pearl 6 are really the same language underneath? Okay, you can put those down. Second question. Do you think Pearl 5 and Pearl 6 are really different languages? Wait a minute. You voted the same way both times.
It's my job to be disagreeable.
You're very good at it. What is your name, by the way?
You can call me Dev.
Oh, I see. Dev, as in developer. BSD, I presume. And you are called?
Angie.
Angie, you voted 1 both times. If Deb's job is to be disagreeable, I suppose it's your job to be agreeable.
No, actually, my job is to be differently disagreeable in the nicest possible way.
Okay, you remind me a lot of my wife.
No, I just not I'm your conscience after all.
I'm also your conscience.
You?
Just ignore him.
No, ignore her.
Him.
Her.
Him.
Her.
Him.
Her.
Him.
Her.
With different people inside my head arguing back and forth. Free will consists largely of knowing how to ignore both sides of an issue until you've made up your mind, or my mind in this case. This is a very important skill for a language designer to be able to hold oneself on the fence long enough to tell which side of the fence the grass is greener on. Or, more importantly, predict which side of the fence the grass will be greener on tomorrow. Fence sitting is, of course, a metaphorical position, unless you are a cow, in which case you probably should not be trying to locate grass by sitting on fences in the first place.
Him.
Her.
Him.
Her.
Him.
Stop! You know, we all get voices in our head from time to time, but those of us who are sane can make them stop at will.
Him.
Her. Her.
I love my noise canceling headphones. That's kind of how the free will thing works. When you notice a signal that makes you want to decide one way, you counteract it with the opposite signal to keep you on the fence until you've gathered enough data to make a better decision.
No. You should love your enemies and always use the less operator on them.
I disagree. The first thing we should do is use the kill operator on all the Python programmers.
No. The poor Python programmers can't help it. We must kill them. But for PHP programmers, I suppose that could be considered.
It's okay to be unsure, especially when you're not sure. It's good to sit on the fence when you're not sure whether to bless or to kill, for instance. There isn't any shame in not making up your mind prematurely. It's like those roundabouts in Europe. My father-in-law hates them, but I love them, because you can just keep driving around and around, or around and around in Britain. You just keep driving around until you decide which way you think you should go. It's the same idea with fence sitting. Of course, there's also disadvantages to this. Both roundabouts and fences can make you dizzy, either from going around in circles too much or from the height. Especially if it's a really tall fence, or if you're Humpty Dumpty.
The question is who's to be the master, that's all.
That's not a question, that's a statement.
Question!
Statement.
Question!
Statement. What?
But you know, sometimes when you're sitting on the fence, you discover that you're sitting on the wrong fence. And the voices in your head start arguing about whether the grass is greener on the other side of someone else's fence.
Ruby.
Python!
Ruby.
Python!
Or maybe you were already sitting on the green grass, and instead you're deciding which fence is browner.
Cobalt.
Java!
Nature cow.
APL!
Brain fuck.
Watch your language.
Lady, my language is a four-letter word. I always hear many little voices in my head asking many different kinds of questions, stewing about all the different possible answers, and a large number of impossible answers, especially before breakfast. Maybe I really am that brown fence, and I'm sitting in the middle of the green grass, but my mission in life is to decide which cow is purple, or purpler.
I never saw a purple cow.
I never saw a green one.
Purple.
Green!
Purple.
Green!
Purple.
When the voices in your head start to argue over which purple cow eats greener grass than the brown fence, you know you should probably go to see a doctor, or at least find a better drug dealer. But anyway, back to this free will thing, this sitting on the knife edge of a decision until you're ready to make up your mind. It's part of what it takes to be a decent language designer. At least, I really hope so, because it's one of the few things I'm really, really good at, not deciding. When I'm considering a question raised on the mailing lists or on the IRC channels, not deciding yet is often the most important decision I can make, and sometimes the hardest decision. All of those lovely features are always crying out, I'm greener, no, I'm greener. Illustrate.
I'm greener!
No, I'm greener.
I'm
No,
greener!
I'm greener.
Wait. Can you feel it?
What?
Colorless green ideas sleep furiously.
I beg your pardon.
Sorry, it's a linguistics joke.
Was it funny?
Linguistics jokes aren't supposed to be funny. Well, not that way. They're usually funny the other way, though.
Well, on a scale of 1 to 7, I think I'd give it a 2.
It wasn't that good.
All right then. A 1, be that way. I don't like taking surveys if you rate things on a scale from 1 to 7 because it has a middle, so you can pick 4 if you really don't care. And going in the direction from 4, you can care a little bit, or a lot, or somewhere in between. For example, how much do you like Pearl? You're supposed to say 7.
6 is the top of my scale.
Well, how do you like Ruby? Python? PHP? Oh, very funny. I still think 1 to 7 is the best scale. And on top of all that, we're told that 7 is the number representing perfection, scripturally speaking.
Hey, I know that song from when I was young. 7 is a perfect number, we are told. Let's be more like 7 before we get too old.
Well, the mathematicians would disagree. They don't think 7 is a perfect number. They call 6 a perfect number because its divisors, 1, 2, and 3, add up to 6. They call 6 a perfect number for that reason. So I think we should have a rating scale from 0 to 6 instead of 1 to 7. Besides, it's really lame to give someone a rating of 1. It feels much more gratifying to give them a 0 rating.
That reminds me, I wanted to show off some Pearl 6 here.
Oh yes, that fits with what I was saying. 6 is the top rating, just like the good old days in gymnastics. She scored a perfect 6.0.
Forget it. 7 is still the top rating, and Pearl 6 ain't there yet.
I think he should go ahead and show off.
Well, I don't. I think he's getting a swell head. Not getting a swell head, are you, mister?
Too late.
Well, actually, that's why I wear a hat all the time, to keep my head from getting any bigger. I think, given the circumstances, I would prefer to think of 6 as the top of the scale now. With that in mind, I'd like to show off a bit of Pearl 6, really. I'm really showing off the work of a great bunch of guys who have been slaving away day and night to get Rapido Star ready, or mastering away, if you prefer Humpty Dumpty's version. So let's try for a live demo.
The first rule of Frisbee applies here.
What's that?
Never preface any Frisbee trick with anything more specific than watch this.